Entry 14 for a shooting at Century Theaters, 14300 East Alameda Avenue. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium.
Team 6, we got another person outside shot in the leg of female. I got people running out of the theater that are shot in room 9.
Copy, we'll let rescue know. They'll start more people.
16, I got 7 down in theater 9. 7 down.
Copy, we'll notify fire. 7 down in theater 9.
Legion 25, I need rescue to stage in the Dillard's lot. I need as many ambulances as we can to the Dillard's lot.
Copy, we'll have them stage at the Dillard's lot and send as many ambulances as possible.
I want my fire trucks there also, and I'll start bringing them in to triage.
Incidents like Columbine, the Aurora, Colorado shooting, the Virginia Tech shooting, the Nickel Mines, the Platte Canyon shootings are all examples where there was a lot of space, a lot of area to cover, and victims that were in need of help.
Aurora, LA Airport, fire staged and waited till the scene was secure. It'll take hours for a scene to be secure.
On these large-scale events, though, we know that the scene security or the overall scene secure is going to be several hours on a very, very large building. And so we can't have patients laying around for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours until we're able to get help to them.
We use the term secure. You know, I've looked in every cabinet, I've looked in every crawl space. I have not seen a suspect.
The goal of the rescue task force is to get medical aid into these people as quickly as possible, knowing that we can't wait for a scene to become secure.
It's quicker to provide medical care if we provide a security element to the medical personnel in order to gain entry into the scene.
When we first started doing this, it was well over an hour before fire EMS was able to make first patient contact. After constant training and constant reevaluation of what we were doing, with the development of the rescue task force, we were able to get in and get firefighters and paramedics safely into a scene under police escort and have first patient contact sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. The rescue task force was developed in concert with national standards in order to insert firefighters and paramedics into an indirect threat zone or in progress scenes of violence. The goal is to get fire EMS personnel under the escort of law enforcement in to take care of victims that are in need of medical aid on the inside of these scenes.
At no time will law enforcement bring any personnel into a direct threat area, because that's too dangerous. I cannot be responsible for your safety and my own if I'm hunting a bad guy.
It's not about who's in charge, it's not about who's running the show. This is clearly, on these mass scenes of violence, this is a law enforcement event, but fire EMS play a critical role, and law enforcement appreciates that, and fire EMS also appreciates that this is a law enforcement event that will have a criminal investigation going on for a long period of time. But it's only when we can all work together and make sure that we're able to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people and keep the overall mission objectives in mind will we ultimately be successful. Once unified command has been established and we know that there's victims on the inside, a rescue task force will need to be assembled. This will require a rescue task force group supervisor from both the fire EMS side and the law enforcement side.
Captain Jesse Babada, I've been assigned as your counterpart for this rescue task force.
Pleased to meet you.
We have 2 injured students in room 235. Our guys are ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, we're ready.
One of the primary responsibilities of the rescue task force group supervisor is to identify a team leader, both on the fire EMS side and on the police side.
You guys ready?
We're ready. Captain Aarons, your job is to extricate the patient from the 2nd floor. You'll be taking the paramedic with you. Go ahead and make sure you stay within the protection of the deputies.
Sam, you're team leader. There's a casualty collection point in room 235. Go ahead and escort fire and medics there.
Copy that, 235. Bill and Keith, you're in front.
Law enforcement personnel should consider breaching tools, additional ammunition, and spare batteries for radios, flashlights. and things like that.
For fire EMS, they will need to bring any personal protective equipment or PPE that they would bring in, ballistic vests, gowns, gloves, whatever is necessary. They'll also need to bring in extraction devices such as a mega mover, a pole litter, a backboard, anything that you are going to use to extract patients. Once the teams enter, the team leader from the police side is going to be in charge of tactical movement. They have the ultimate call on where they're going and what is going to happen next.
The key part that in order to make this succeed, is law enforcement cannot leave their fire counterpart. You know, we are responsible for the safety of the people that we bring into a scene, whether it be fire, EMS, other civilians. It's law enforcement's job to provide them security.
So treatment for the Rescue Task Force for fire EMS personnel are going to be limited to simple airway management, such as rolling somebody up on their side, the occlusion of an open or sucking chest wound, and simple hemorrhage control, which will most likely be with the use of a tourniquet. One thing that needs to be crystal clear is that the Rescue Task Force concept is completely separate from the mass casualty event. The MCI plan that is going on the outside with regards to treatment area, transport locations, transport areas, contact with the Disaster Medical Control Center is going to be completely separate from what's going on the inside with the Rescue Task Force. Once the extraction team reaches the edge of the warm zone, cold zone, they will be handing off to a team waiting on the outside in order to receive the patient. Once the patient has been handed off, the team that is receiving the patient will be responsible for giving another piece of extraction equipment, whether it be a backboard, a pole litter, and or a mega mover, back to the Rescue Task Force. The Rescue Task Force will stay together. It is imperative that they stay together. That way, the police contingency of the Rescue Task Force doesn't have to continually give new instructions to every RTF that comes in on the fire EMS side. This will allow for continuity of operations and also continuity of patient care.
Should they encounter some type of threat, it's the law enforcement team leader's job to make sure that the medical personnel shelter in place or provided some type of security element while they mitigate whatever threat they may encounter.
Biggest concern on the fire EMS side is that we are now doing something, going into scenes that are not completely secure. However, the term scene secure is actually a fallacy. We go into scenes that are not secure all the time. Every scene that we go in has the potential of being dynamic.
We do this all the time on regular calls. When we call for medical, for aid to stage or stand by, we're escorting fire or medics into a scene all the time.
If we were to have a house fire come in with patients that were trapped on the inside, we wouldn't even second guess going inside of those, going inside those structures in order to try to save somebody's life.
Yes, we are formalizing a process or something that we always do, and we're giving it a name, but it's something that we always have done in the past. Maybe, like I said, maybe not such a grand scale, but it's something that we're accustomed to.
So the way that we overcome that is through what we're currently doing. We train, we give people proper training, we create policies, we create procedures, we make sure that we have an understanding of what's going on and what we're going to do.
If you have a question, if you're unsure of something, ask it, and your law enforcement counterpart, whoever the team leader is, will tell you what their expectations are of you. Listen to their directions. They're not going to tell you anything that would put you in harm's way, and don't argue with them because they are in charge of the scene and of your life in that area.
The biggest thing that you can, as a law enforcement officer, when you're dealing with firefighters and paramedics, is have open lines of communication. Don't have any assumptions that they know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it. If you have any questions, ask. The most critical component of this has been our relationship now with law enforcement. We have always had a relationship with law enforcement, but this has really been the first time that each and every single discipline has got together, and everybody's doing the exact same thing. The vernacular is the same, everything is the same, and that we're actually training together, so we understand on these scenes what law enforcement needs in order to get their mission accomplished, and law enforcement also has an appreciation for what fire EMS needs to accomplish on these scenes. And only by working together and being on the same page are we able to safely move in and effect rescue and or medical care for those victims on the inside who are in need.